Good morning, everyone. 8:15. Hope you guys tuned in from 5 to 7 to watch Morning Blend on TV. If you didn't, well, here we are. We're going to recap one of the stories we talked about. We know it's back to school season. A lot of the different school districts across not only the country, but here in our own state and our own region are heading back to the classroom this week. Exciting times, except when you start thinking about the kids who are going back to school and then have to deal with bullying. And then as parents, which we aren't, but we understand the struggle. As parents, how do you deal with bullying? How do you talk to your kids about bullying? Dina, you did some research on different applications that parents can actually download on their phone to monitor bullying.
So we know for a lot of those kids out there, you start getting cell phones these days. I have friends saying their 9 and 10-year-olds are getting phones now just to keep track of them when they're leaving school for the day or whatever. So there are a couple of apps out there that are aimed to try to help parents tap into literally what their kids are doing online, and then also to recognize signs of suicidal thoughts. If your child is being bullied and it's not something that they're willing to share with you, you can search for certain keywords by using some of these apps. So you want to go through 3 of them. So I'll go through all 3 and then we'll open up for discussion from our viewers, maybe if you think this will work for you or if you have any other suggestions.
Or maybe some have the apps, right?
Or some might have them, and we had one viewer this morning say that she had another app, so we can talk about that too. So let's start with this first one though. The first one is called Net Nanny. And this one helps to control the kids' activity remotely. So a parent can actually tap into the phone when they're not with their child. You can choose certain websites that you want to block from their phones. You also can get a warning if your child types in a certain keyword like suicide. So this one is one that is aiming to help combat children who are struggling with potential bullying at school, and they're not really vocal about it with their family back at home. So that one is called Net Nanny. The next one on this list is called Secure Teen. So this one, you can actually track the call logs that are made to and from your child. You can also read their text messages. You can block inappropriate content and other apps from their phone. You'll know what they're doing online. You can also track their location remotely, so it will tell you where they are. And then the third one is a similar app out there. It's called Teen Safe. This one allows you to look at the text messages, view the phone calls, check the phone's location, and also browse the web history. So if you parents out there are using any of these apps, please let me know how it's working for you. We had a conversation this morning, though, about is this what it's come to now? Are parents needing to tap into these phones to know what's happening with their kid behind closed doors? Or for some of you parents out there, is this more of a privacy concern for you, thinking, I don't want to invade my child that much, I want to have a level of trust with them? So if you're considering having an app like this, would you tell them about it? Would you let them know that you're tapping in?
That's the struggle.
One of our coworkers, and I won't reveal who it is in case their kids are watching, did say they have an opportunity to track what one of their children is doing on social. Their kid doesn't know that they're doing it, and they're going to monitor it in case something happens and then tell them later.
See, it sounds sneaky, but from a parent's perspective in 2017, I get it. I mean, we've all been the kid who didn't want to be monitored because, as a teenager, someone who has a phone, you want that freedom. That's part of growing up, and mom and dad don't need to know every little thing because it's part of decision making, and you gotta fail sometimes in order to succeed. And we get that, but on the other side, as a parent, you have to do your due diligence in making sure that your kid is okay in the classroom. I hear too many stories now, especially with Instagram Live, Facebook Live, where kids are doing things live on air because they think it's cool, or they're communicating in ways that they're just revealing so much about themselves that I think if I was a parent right now, I'd have one of those apps. Would I tell my kid? No, because I think it depends on the kid, but I think that kind of defeats the purpose, right? The kid is being watched, not that you're waiting, like just waiting for them to say something wrong. I wouldn't come at them if it was like about relationship stuff and things that they just need to figure out on their own. But if it, using the word suicide, or if we see them being bullied, I'd maybe go straight to the school and not inform the kid right away. It needs to come from the school. Like, we know our sources tell us that you're being bullied. Let's bring your parent in to discuss it. I think when you start having that conversation of I've been watching you, that's where you're going to create the what's the word, mistrust, the untrust. And then kids, a lack of trust, and the kid's going to start rebelling and then going behind your back and doing it somewhere else. whether they're bullying or there's a will, there's a way. The kid's going to do it. They don't want to be watched. I can be straight up about that. No kid wants to be watched.
Yeah, they don't want to be watched, but sometimes you need it. When I was younger, a teenager, somebody needed to track me. I was sneaky. I was very responsible. I had a job, went to school, had my own car, played sports. I did what I needed to do, but I always, in my mind, felt like I was grown and I could do what I want. Okay. I do everything else. My check boxes are checked off. So looking back, my parents should have definitely, if I would have had a cell phone, they should have definitely put this on my phone for the sake of just being able to understand what your child is doing or just their environment or who they're hanging around. And when you deal with bullying, somebody said this earlier during our morning show, sometimes it's hard for kids to come up to the parent and say, hey, mom, dad, I'm being bullied. Yeah. That's a very difficult conversation to have, especially if you're to the point where you're possibly thinking about harming yourself because of that. So I definitely do agree. And then just talking to some of my teacher friends now, again, and I say this all the time, kids have access to too many things. I don't know how many times I see posts on Facebook from my teacher friends who say when they've taken their students' phones from them for just being ridiculous in class, a lot of the times there's pornography on there because it's nothing for you to be able to pull up porn now. Kids have access to things that we didn't necessarily have access to. Now you have a lot of cases where we're seeing where kids go missing. So just being able to track and monitor certain things is sometimes it's not necessarily about spying. It's knowing that the world is not as friendly as a child may think it is.
But does the kid know that?
I wouldn't.
They don't understand it. I mean, no, but here's the thing. Teenager Cornelia. If you found out that mom and dad were tracking you, you understand now why they would do that. You suggested now, but how would you have responded if you said that?
So I went to a party in high school, senior year, and we had parties all over. We would throw parties, rent bingo halls out, and just throw a party. I told my mom I was going to the party. I was going to the party. Okay. I pull up in the parking lot with my homegirls. We get out, and I see my mom in the back of the parking lot in her Chevy Monte Carlo, like looking out. I stormed up to the car and was like, "What are you doing here?" Like so distraught. And she was like, I was just making sure that you got here safe. I was like, leave me alone. Like went through a whole dramatic scene. And then she rolled her window up on her Chevy Monte Carlo and drove off. And I was so upset. I was so upset. Right. She was just trying to look back. Looking back. Yeah. It still was creepy. Like, don't get it twisted.
Listen, that's going to be me.
It was creepy.
Oh, yeah.
But I understand now. Like, she was like, I was just making sure you got here safe.
Okay, can I bring in some of your comments? Yes. Because I really want to hear from parents out there. So please, and teachers, anyone out there who is in a position where you feel like you could be of some value here with your comments, please let us know. So first, I want to show you Ruben, who says, my daughter is 9 and has her own phone. The only thing I have to tell her is to pay attention while she's playing Pokemon Go. So that's the only thing.
Well, that's nice. Good kid.
And then also Ruben said, I don't think it's a good idea, even if you get one of those apps, there's always one to find out or screen these things, and one way that other kids will be able to find out because they're more tech savvy at an earlier age. So are you saying that you think they'll be able to know if you're looking at them? Is that what you're getting at, Ruben?
Maybe.
Yeah. And then Glenn says, kids these days seem to have thin skin. And I will say this. That might be true, but I also think that it's because of what's happening technologically. So when you think about when we were in school, I remember the bullying thing, like when you were watching movies and when you heard about the horror stories, you'd get thrown in a trash can.
Like swirlies in the toilet.
Yeah, the senior boys were always like, oh, we're going to put you in the trash can. And I never saw it, but that was always the threat. Now, you don't have to be in person, face to face to get that. Now, there are people who are harassing one another online, and it's happening on social pages. Even if they're not following one another, they can just come on and they can start attacking somebody. Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, there's so many more ways now to really say hurtful things to people. And so, yeah, maybe the kids have thinner skin, but they're also being attacked from so many different angles nowadays than when we were in high school, where really if you were going to be bullied, it was physically at the school. There it was.
At the lunch table in the cafeteria.
Can we get to this one comment? I think it's really important. Jeannie Xavier just found out my daughter was getting threatened from girls at her school through Twitter. Could use an app like that because she was too embarrassed to tell me.
That's a hard conversation to have.
But you just gotta, sometimes you just gotta follow the kid on social to read between the lines. Because maybe the kid could even be overlooking some of these threats that are happening by A, a peer, B, some sort of cyber bully out there who's just trying to scam on these kids. But the fact that it was right there, wide open on Twitter, and who knows, I don't know if the child had or if your child, Jeannie, had a verified account, excuse me, not verified, but a protected account.
Oh,
where
right,
they had
if you
to have
privacy settings,
or if it's just an open public account.
Yeah.
But I've actually, I wouldn't say tracked, but I've followed my little cousins check in from time to time because they're all over the social. And Twitter gets me because I used to think that Twitter was just for like us newsy people who are like finding headlines. It's sort of gone by the wayside. It's more about Instagram now. Like Twitter wasn't really a place where you saw the younger gen. But what I started finding out is like, no, they're like just putting out random thoughts and they go back and forth with it's a weird conversation that they have. It's not like a normal thing, but they do use it because they don't think mom and dad are on there because it's Twitter and it's like too techy and they're not going to find it. But if you just do a little follow, I found out who a little cousin was dating before. I found out that, I mean, you find out all these little things and just the words they're using, you'll go, oh, they're already there. I didn't think they were that mature. Like they're there.
Oh, I do that with my niece to the point where I'll make comments under her post. Oh, I'm that person. If I think you're doing something that's ridiculous, I'll be like, okay, girl, you're doing the most. Like I'm that aunt that's like, pull a book out and read. Like I'm going to. I'll make it known that I am watching you. Yeah, and I'm going to check you if I don't think you're doing the right thing or staying in line.
And
thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for absolutely sharing that, Jeannie. I think Jeannie.
Yes.
I do think too, when it comes to Twitter and Snapchat and all of those are things that not only does one person have to say something negative to you to really feel like, gosh, maybe it's nothing, it's one person, but then that's when all the friends start to chime in. And then you start to see all these people can really start to gang up on somebody through social media. And it's just it's a hard world that these younger teens and preteens are growing up in because you really can't stop that.
Right.
There are huge bullying policies now in schools that are strictly enforced. And Walt Gray was just telling us that he talked to one of the school districts here locally yesterday and they said, it's online, look at it. If there's any bullying, we're going to put a stop to it. But a lot of times it's a he said, she said, the parents get involved, the damage has already been done, the kids' feelings have already been hurt, and then where do you go? Do you move your kid out of the school? I mean, at some point, that's going to stick. That negative stigma about so many people don't like me will stick with you, even if it's handled. And so I think having a parent who has access to some of these things and being able to attack it in the very beginning, nip it in the bud in the very beginning and not letting it draw out, could potentially really save your kid from having these awful feelings down the road.
Have that conversation. We know that, remember the recent Netflix series 13 Reasons Why?
Yeah.
And we had Selena Gomez who was behind it. A lot of flack from parents out there saying, yes, but this idea of this girl, if you have never seen it, I watched all episodes, it's a story of a girl who was bullied to death, literally killed herself, and then made these tapes, and each tape belonged to a person saying, tape 1, this is Cornelia, how you made me feel in part of the reason why I killed myself. Dina, you're tape 2. And so all these kids, the parents were oblivious. Even when these tapes were released, and you heard her voice, it was very creepy, but in the end, it was supposed to bring awareness to bullying, and it did for a lot of people, but the other side of it, and a lot of bullying prevention experts were saying, this now plants the seed in bullies' heads or bully those who are bullied to say, oh, well, I can become popular even in my death. So then it triggered these new ideas. So there's no right way, because every kid handles bullying and prevention in a different way. But I think just the awareness of that show really brought to light, like, oh, that's what kids have to deal with in high school these days.
Yep, that's what it's, yes.
So thank you again for chiming in. There's one more. Ruben Almanzar, thank you, our loyal Ruben viewer, said, I got bullied in 3rd grade until he caught me on a bad day, and before I knew it, I got a 3-day suspension, but he didn't bother me after that. So he's old school. Sometimes you just got to nip it in the bud as a kid, which we don't.
We're not going to advocate violence, Ruben, but I'm glad that helped you. Trisha brought up a good point too, saying that kids are a little naive, saying the 11-year-old self, you think you're playing Minecraft with might be somebody who's 34 and trying to be a creeper, which is so true, and that's why sometimes parents' judgment on something can go so much further than a child's judgment. And so if you feel like you would use one of these apps, if you could tap into somebody's text messages and say, hey, who is this person? Oh, it's just so-and-so. No. That doesn't sound like that's another kid. Sometimes the kid is naive into thinking.
Glenn McBurney Jr., moving your child in his opinion, moving your child from a school isn't the answer, because you're not teaching them to deal with their problems. You're teaching them it's okay to run away from them. That's one approach.
Yeah.
How are we going to deal with it as a family?
Right.
So Jeannie said she wanted to confirm that her daughter's Twitter account was private.
Oh, okay.
It is private, so she had to gain access to it at some point.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your stories right now and today here on Extra Shot.